I am Mary Fran, and this is Kiwi, and this is Kiwi's Corner. And today I want to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to my heart. And to actually get my point across, I am going to tell you Kiwi's story. We were actually visiting a pet store to find heat pads for our crabs. And as always, we walk through the pet area. On this visit, we saw this most adorable little bird. This bird was so focused on Jason. He was wanting to be with Jason. And we weren't really looking for a bird that day, but we fell in love with the bird. And we talked about the bird all day long. And, we talked about the pet store, and the pet store had been around for a long time. Years and years and years, this pet store had been around. And we trusted the pet store because they've been around forever. And we talked to the workers there, and they talked to us about how he was hand-fed, and he's from our breeder, and they take real good care, and he is such a sweetheart, and this and that and the other. And they even talked about his head. There was a little bit of a molting thing, but don't worry about it because we had him to the vet, and it was not a big issue. It was just the molting and his pin feathers and blah, blah, blah. And they fed us the line, and we ended up going back and buying the bird. And I'm going to say right now, I will never say that I regret buying the bird. Now, when we bought the bird, we actually talked to them and said, what is going to happen while we're setting up the cage? And they're like, I'll just put him on the floor in the bathroom. His wings are clipped. He's going to just hop around. So we did that. And immediately this bird started to fly. Because you see, number one, they lied to us. His wings were not clipped. Well, they had been clipped, but they needed clipped again. Not a big one. That's fine. We're going to take him to the vet anyway to get his wings clipped. So we let that one go. So I called the vet to ask them to make an appointment because we were trying to build trust with our bird, and we did not want to clip his wings until he is trusting of us. So we made an appointment with the bird, and then we also decided that we were going to talk to them about his head that had a little bald spot on it. And when I called the vet, they're like, well, do you have paperwork? What do you mean paperwork? When we walked out of there, we walked out with a receipt and a bird. There's no paperwork. They said, well, you should have gotten paperwork. So I started calling the pet store, our trusted pet store. And it was horrible. I talked to the owner who told me to call someone else. I talked to someone else who told me to go elsewhere. I did this. I went there. I made call after call after call. Oh, we don't have any paperwork for this bird. Oh, I don't know. Somebody else is going to have the paperwork. Call tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. The place wasn't open at 8 o'clock in the morning. They gave me the runaround for a week. And when I finally got somebody that was willing to admit that there was some paperwork, I said, I want the paperwork from the vet. I was told this bird went to the vet down the road, and I want the paperwork. And I want all the paperwork for this bird. And they're like, oh, okay, absolutely. So we went to pick up the paperwork. What they gave us was not the vet slip. It was a card that said the hatch date and that our bird was not banded. And I don't know if you can see it, but this bird is definitely banded. And it was also a paper that showed that a whole bunch of animals came from a pet mill and that a veterinarian had seen them and checked them out before they were shipped. My bird came from a pet mill, and that makes my heart break. That makes my absolute heart break. This bird did not have a good first couple months of his life. Did you, boy? No. Did you, boy? This bird was in a pet mill. And I'm ashamed to say it. Now, I love my bird, and I have no problem with the fact that I bought him. But I will never buy another bird from a pet store again unless I know for sure where the breeder came from. Now, with that said, we did go to the vet. And that bald spot that's on his head, Yes, that was not a molting issue. It was not formula from when he was born and they were hand feeding him like we were told that the other vet had said, which of course we could not get paperwork for because that disappeared. This bird had an infection. He had a skin infection. It was a yeast and a bacteria infection. We bought a sick bird and we paid premium price for a sick bird. Now, I, for one, am happy that we got him because how much longer would he have managed to live with an infection? I may have saved this bird's life. This bird cost me double because whatever I paid for him at the store, let's just say I paid about the same amount at the vet within the first week to get him better. I trusted a pet store. And they lied to me on every front. I'm happy I got my pet bird. I love my kiwi, but I will never buy another pet from a pet store. I want to buy it directly from a breeder because this bird lived a horrible life before I got him. Didn't you, boy? When you buy a pet, make sure you know where they're coming from. Don't buy them from a place that is so harsh and so difficult that their first months are not happy. We should have known when they told us that he was afraid of fingers, that he wasn't raised in a nice way, because a hand-fed bird is not going to be afraid of fingers. This bird was petrified of fingers. So I just want to caution you. Know where your bird's at. Know where your bird came from. Buy it from reputable sources. And don't just trust the fact that it's from a pet store that's been around forever. Know where it comes from. I'm Mary Fran. This is Kiwi, and this is Kiwi's Corner.